a mom, the country girl with a heart of gold. Yes, that's right. Big Brother Canada 9, night 2, and also eviction number 1 is over. Julie View is gone. The first casualty of the Big Brother Canada 9 house. Jaemeel is the first out of our draft. I'm Dave Mader, coming at you here on Super Mader Brothers podcasting, joined with Jaemeel Robinson, as we're here to cover this entire season. This is the second night of our 10-week journey to talk about Big Brother Canada 9. And this was a good night, Jaemeel. I thought this was a lot of fun in terms of...
it was a horrible night. What do you mean?
Well, for you, but in terms of the show, I think that the show did good tonight. I think that this was a lot of intrigue. I thought we saw some interesting alliance strategy talk here. I thought we had some great human moments on the show and some personal connections with a lot of these different cast members. Julie, what a terrific, disastrous, just disaster, a crash among all crashes, as she as Josh comes to her, says, Julie, we got to stick together here. We can't let these alpha guys run it like the Pretty Boys did back in BB Canada 7. And she runs off and just shows she's completely untrustworthy. I'll go as far as to say a shit disturber, a fertilizer agitator, and she completely torpedoed her own game. I have no sympathy here for Julie, quite frankly. But Jaemeel, I see you shaking your head. Where are you sitting at right now?
I absolutely disagree with what you just said.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't believe that she just ran off nilly-willy to talk to the group. I think that Josh was telling her because she had the better connection with everyone. So she was being Josh's voice, which was her issue. But I have another issue in terms of what Josh and Julie were doing wrong in general, right? But in your statements, you're making it seem like she just went rogue with what Josh said and relayed the information about the Pretty Boys 2.0 to a set of individuals.
To a very random set of individuals, I want to say. Like, who was there? Like, Beth was there. Victoria's there. These are not people on her team. Like, in terms of how... I think we saw here a couple times tonight, Julie... But Latoya is from our team, right? But
yes.
In terms of
I'm just saying Latoya,
the defenders. Though. Yeah, but we saw that Latoya was not a team Julie or a fan, even though they're on the same team. They're not fans of each other, clearly. Or they weren't by the end of this. And I just think that Julie didn't make herself look good here in terms of how she relayed that information. She says, Josh is coming at me. He's saying there's a guys alliance. And that's throwing Josh under the bus, quite frankly, I thought. Not that I'm sticking up for Josh. I think he's quite the interesting character on this show, though. I don't think he's long for this game. But
I absolutely disagree. I think he is as long as it's a team game, he is in the show.
Why do you think that? Because he seemed like he was the most likely person to go other than Julie tonight.
They didn't want... He is the train wreck, and that's why they kept him, because you automatically have a number that's not really going to connect with the rest of the members of the team or whoever is your opposition, because he's a loner. Right?
Yeah, he's a floater. Loner floater, yeah.
I wouldn't even call him a floater. Like, the dude is moping around. He's not even like, I'm just to myself sitting on a couch. He's literally walking around looking like someone just stole his balloon. Like he was like 8 years old, right?
Well, like, Josh is an interesting... He's quite the interesting cast member, right? Just his diary room sessions. Just to bring in Josh here, because he is a unique person. I think the longer he's on the show, I think the better for me. I think he's, I'm sad to see Julie go here, but Josh, I think is the one I would rather have kept, just because for entertainment value and who I think, like, Julie's fun for the game too, but I think that the players can they're not gonna go for that kind of thing. Like what
Julie made one mistake, and she's able to talk to people on a one-on-one basis, and she should have done all of the work on a one-on-one basis, right? And
oh yes, I completely agree. If she had done the same thing, if she had gone to Beth individually, and if she'd gone to Victoria individually and Latoya and said the exact same thing, but she just felt like this need, like I have this energy, all right, and they saw that okay, so Josh talked to you about something, and now you're here spilling it all to us, and if I did the same thing, you would do the same thing to me. So that I think that's the mistake.
I think that's a narrative that Latoya crafted. Right.
Well, that's kind of what that's what I observed. I think maybe it was reinforced by Latoya's narrative, but yeah. So okay, but let's just talk about the whole episode in general, because I think the doom here of Julie, and because we didn't get any live feeds, where our information of what she did exactly and how much of this edit buried her or not is sort of up in the air at this point.
They buried her. They buried Braden. Sorry, they buried Josh, and they also buried Austin. And we're gonna get to that point when we're recapping.
Well, Barry, I'm interested in what you mean by that, but let's get into that. Okay, so the recap tonight, I was kind of riffing on it at the beginning, though, was kind of assigning these archetypes or these nicknames maybe to some of our cast members. In particular, they said there's Tara, the alpha mom. Okay, the alpha mom. Okay, then we got Beth, the country girl with a heart of gold. I wasn't quite sure about that one, okay. but they're trying to get us from who are this cast member? Who's on this show? These are all new people. We also have Latoya, the arresting officer.
So, once again, what kind of description is that?
Not a very good one compared to even the first two. It's the worst of the three.
Yeah.
And the fourth one was for Victoria. She is the siren.
Lead men off into their destructions.
Perhaps. I preferred when she called herself Spicy V. I think that's a better nickname for Victoria. But we'll see if it sticks.
Yeah.
They said that this was a grudge match of the century here with the Defenders and the Destinies. But Jaemeel, I feel like these teams are sort of in play here, but obviously they know that these won't be around forever. So relationships across the aisle are going on for sure. Jedson and Tashawn being the most notable, I think, but there's more to that. We have some other groups here tonight. We see a few different potential alliances forming.
I can't wait for us to talk about the dolls, please. Can't wait.
The dolls. Well, the dolls are broken up already. They're just a pair of dolls now.
Where's I bought a 3-pack. There's only 2.
Yeah, there were 3. It was a limited time only.
Yeah.
And okay, so we were talking about last night, like how can the nominees vote? Because we assume there would only be 2, but it's just that everybody on the losing team is on the block except for the captain in this case, Kiefer. So Kiefer got to vote, but he wasn't eligible to be voted for, which is kind of an interesting thing.
I think, just for the first week, it was like we kind of put you guys in this type of position. You're choosing the team, so people might use it as a fault. So we want to give you, and you missed out on the initial, conversing and getting to know. So we just want to give you enough runway for you to land and, kind of build relationships. So that 1 week deal. But you heard at the end of the episode regarding HOH.
We're going back to HOHs. So I thought that they were going to keep this twist at least for a couple weeks or this format.
I think they're keeping the twist in the format. It's just the way you're thinking about it. I think it's going to be different.
Because the captain's only applied to this week, so now that's going away, and now we have HOHs. But I would assume that the HOH has to be from the winning side, so They would have to have the safety competition first, and then among the winning team, then they would have an HOH competition. Would be logical to me, and then they would nominate 2 people from the other team, or something along those lines.
I think either you would have to nominate 2 people, and then you have the veto, or the head of household picks who's immune.
Right. Yeah. So there are a couple ways they're going to do it. It's interesting to see how this plays out. I think that it's good that Kiefer had safety, right, and Tina, but with Kiefer being on the losing team, he has safety. However, it's kind of puts him in a tough spot no matter what. You were the captain. You're obviously singled out, and that you're going to have that baggage no matter what, being in that role. But he also gets to vote, unlike the other 6 members of his team who are eligible to be voted for. So that also separates him from the rest.
So let me ask you a question. If Kiefer didn't have immunity, do you think he would be, up for eviction?
It's hard to say. I don't think so. I saw nothing tonight to show that he's sort of in on the outs with anybody or he's somebody they don't want around. I think that you're seeing that the people who aren't quite fitting in are the people that they're talking about getting rid of. I think Julie is the victim tonight here. She's the ultimate one they get rid of because I think for a few reasons, but I think that Josh is somebody that the house is going to be fine to lose. I think that that's probably the case with a few others, like even Braden. I'm not sure about. I don't know where Austin stands in this hierarchy of the house and where who she's kind of with. So I we'll see how this plays out. But
I see Braden and Austin are totally fine. Like the bottom three, and the only thing that really stuck, right, was you had Rohan, Julie, and Josh, and those were three decisions.
Those three kept coming up over and over.
Yeah, and Rohan didn't make any sense from a team aspect, a physical team aspect, because he was the one that was able to last the longest from the team. So you're kind of punishing him, even and saying that he is the weakest, even though he performed the best under the circumstances, mind you. And then you have Josh, who obviously was the first person gone, who was struggling from the get-go, right? And looked like he could have fallen like 2 minutes earlier. And then Julie, who has her obvious issues that people see concerning how she's working with other people and the tone that is being said in the house, specifically about her. So to me, it was only a three-person race. No one else was legitimately on the block. There was no kind of momentum to get anyone else. That's where all the energy was being directed to.
Yeah, well, it's kind of, it's always tough, right? Because these people who are on the bottom, really what they should do is band together. And that was kind of like the sad thing for me tonight was watching, I'm like, Josh, Rohan, Julie, like you all should be working with each other, right? But you're not. You work against each other because you want to be in with the in crowd or whatever you consider that, and so you're going to throw each other under the bus versus actually kind of banding against, and it's kind of the same thing over and over again.
Well, I don't think that's the case with Rohan. I think Rohan is the one that wants to be in the in crowd and he thinks he's one of the boys. Julie and Josh always felt that they were in the outs. My issue is that where they were talking to each other, but where was the strategy? Where was the game plan? Right? So I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but you have the formation of the dolls, right? Which is fine. But the only thing we're presented is them sashaying and kind of posing in front of a door. Like, if anyone from any other like alliance or you're walking by and you see that, you're like, those three are together. We need to break that trio up, right? Because they're legit like bonding hardcore, right?
There's a lot of bonding tonight, and I think it's with only 14 house guests to start the season, it's kind of an intimate group here. It's like there was a lot of sessions where they were all kind of sitting around talking, and there's a lot of cross connections and a lot of diversity on this cast. So I think they have different things in common, different things to find interesting about each other. But how that plays into the game is yet to be seen. Because Julie was one of the most interesting people, I think. I can't really tell if they enjoyed her company or not, but I think I would have. But it's also they just thought she was a liability, and maybe in the team sense, these defenders said, she's not going to help us win challenges.
Which to me doesn't make any sense because
doesn't make sense either.
Like whenever this situation happens, it happens all the time where they're like, "Oh, we need to keep the team strong. We need to keep this. We need to get rid of the weakest person." And I'm like, hold on a second, like. We're talking about the beginning of the game. So that means we usually have team competitions where it's not just about being physical, but maybe being agile is going to be important. You need someone who's not going to drop the ball and just be a total dimwit. And I'm like, are you telling me that in a high pressure situation, you trust Josh Boy over here, right? Mopey McMoperson versus me, who like at least I was looking lucid during the competition. Like the dude seemed like he was out from the get-go, right?
Well, I think you're right though. I think Josh is this lame duck that they're not. He's not a threat, right? And it's kind of I don't know because you could why not get rid of Jedson if he's the threat, right? Or something like that. But Jetson's doing a better job of cross connecting, making connections, and ultimately that's what Big Brother's about. There's
And
numbers, but there's also
which
social.
this is the reason why it made no sense, and Julie shot herself in the foot. She's making these connections, but where is her energy being directed to? And it seems like it was directed towards Josh, who, in my opinion, unless you're bringing him into something, that's just a dead end. And then you have the dolls, which we do not hear any strategic talk, which that's not to say that
But
it
they are in
might not have
session,
happened.
Jaemeel. They said that they are. Braden declared tonight that we are in session.
Well, court's adjourned, right? like, but like you would be looking to like, hey, we need to get a little momentum. We need to like start working with other parts. Austin should be hooking up with Tara and Victoria and that crew because they obviously look like they're bonding. Braden, um, like, and this is where ultimately I feel like where the dead end occurs. Like they needed more individuals talking, and I see Braden talking to Julie, talking to Josh, and talking to Austin. I see Austin talking, seeming able to like jump back and forth, and I see Julie able to walk back and forth, right?
Right.
But Braden, like, what is he bringing? And Josh, he's not there. So you don't want an alpha to win, but they're not really being aggressive until their name starts being coming out. They handled that whole situation with sorry, was it Jaden, not Jaden, Jed
Jetson?
Jetson, right? When
Yeah.
he went on the couch to lie down, they should have went over and started talking to him, right?
No, I'm sorry. It was Tashawn. It
To
was
Sean,
Tashawn.
sorry, that's
Yeah,
what I
you,
was like.
you mean when it was so yes, and there's okay. So I think that there's a few people in the house. I think Josh and Julie had this in common, that they kind of felt intimidated maybe around the alpha males, if you will, the Tashawns, the Jetsons, even Rohan, who may not be. He may be a beta male. He's more of a or Charlie. I don't know, but he's yeah, he's playing pool with them, and that can be intimidating to some people, right?
Yeah.
Like I think
They really calmed
but
down on his edit in this episode. Like,
mhm.
no, like, what did he have any confessionals? And he seemed like a mouse in comparison to the egotistical person that we saw in episode one.
Yeah, like it was. I think there's a lot of intimidation, and when you feel like when you're only a group of 14 like this, right away, I don't versus 16 maybe, I don't know, but like he doesn't have anyone, he doesn't have anybody. It seems like right now, Josh, right at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
And he thought maybe he had Julie a little bit, but he definitely did not.
Well, I think that they all had a conversation, and that latter part where it just seems like she was throwing him under the bus, like hardcore. I think they told her that she was gone, and she didn't want to just roll over and die, kind of thing.
I kind of want to talk about this other power trio that kind of emerged tonight. That I doesn't have a name yet. But
Smartly,
it started with Tashawn and Jedson, who decide that they want to bring in Latoya.
yeah.
And so there's a kind of an earlier conversation between Tashawn and Jedson, and then later on, it's not too long later, we get them. They called themselves a power trio. I think Latoya uses those words. Tashawn, Jedson, Latoya, and they in that conversation, Julie is the name they throw out there, and ultimately Julie is the one who goes tonight. So they maybe they thought, okay, we called the shot, we made the shot, and that's who went. And so they're going to see themselves as being in control. We'll see if that's sustainable or not. But what do you think of this group? Do you think that this is a good trio?
So, in terms of like having similar thought process, I think that there will be good in the sense of they'll be on the same page. I don't necessarily like groups like that, or I don't believe it lasts for a long time because you need that individual part of the team that kind of thinks differently to think outside the box. Because for them, I think it was pretty like they're going to be like bulls in a china shop. They're going to be very laser focused on specific things, and whenever stuff is out of their control, they're not going to be able to manage. The great thing that this team did was they figured out their target extremely early, and they started laying the seeds. So, in comparison, Julie and Josh, they're like, well, it's going to be Rohan, and then they just start, it's it wasn't a subtle kind of rollout. It was just like, hey everyone, everyone's reluctant to name names publicly, but yeah, Rohan. It didn't make much sense, right? It didn't seem to be hesitation, and the way Julie phrased it too is like, well, Josh was saying, and Pretty Boy Alliance, and it looked like it was like a directed attack at people, as opposed to kind of warming people up to the idea, which we certainly would have seen the Power Trio do. Um, they look like they're going to be able to win physical competitions, and I don't think that they're dumb either. I think they're going to do extremely well in a lot of the carnival and mental competitions as well. So they're a force to be
I think absolutely they seem
yeah.
to have the total package. I don't know who's the brains of the three of them yet.
Latoya.
I don't. It's
Latoya.
probably Latoya. I think,
Yeah.
and I think maybe that's why they got her in the group. There was like, we need someone us to. I think that those two guys feel confident that they can win competitions against Josh or whatever,
Yeah.
but they don't necessarily know if they have the social or specifically the strategic things. I think in terms of like how Tashawn was creeping on that Julie and Josh conversation, they were kind of aware of it. I don't know if he could sense that they were uncomfortable, but I just don't think that did anything for Tashawn's game tonight necessarily.
But like,
in a positive
this was a situation that should have been diffused by Julie and Josh. If Josh was a little bit more of an extrovert, right, it could have been like a kind of like kidding kind of situation.
Yes.
Right? You want to put people at ease. They did not put people at ease. They got up and they went start talking to other people. Right?
They let their paranoia sort of like be known and to be felt.
Jeez. But Latoya, the way she handled Julie, especially when Julie eventually confronted her, like, she legit turned that whole situation and made Julie look terrible.
She totally did, because Julie says, I heard Josh just told me you threw my name out there, which, like, okay. And here's another example of Julie just like completely turning on Josh. I don't know if you can call it turning on Josh, because I don't know if you can say that she should have any kind of loyalty to Josh or not. But I felt like Josh is almost like this naive victim in the situation, but I also feel like Julie's kind of clueless to what sort of how this is going to be perceived. Look, when she comes at Latoya just goes, "No, I'm over this. I'm just over." You're over what, Latoya? What are you talking about? What does this mean? I'm just going to the hot tub and that's it. We're going to the hot tub.
Gaslights her. Like, you would think that this was like a bigger argument, and she's like, "Look, I'm not going to continue this argument right now.
It was like, do we start an argument? I don't remember, and this is part 2. No, this is part 1, or this is like the prelude. What's going on? And
Josh said, "Is no, you can't do that.
Can't do that. Not in the bathroom with and who else was present?
Someone else.
Was Victoria present too? I think, and
it was it
Tara? Josh. I don't know. So maybe Tara was there. There was somebody else in the room. It wasn't just Latoya and Julie, and so it was kind of a public
thing. There's no reason for Latoya to even tell the truth, or she's not going to put herself in a position so she admits anything or gets confronted. Like, it's obviously a confrontation, and she handles it the right way by diffusing it, and she made Julie look like a total idiot. If I was whoever was in that room, I'd be like, look, regardless of how I feel about, Julie and stuff, I need to watch out for Latoya, because I can't let something like that happen.
I think that a savvy player could see that and go, Latoya is not somebody I want to mess with here, or underestimate, especially because
I just want to ask you a question, honestly. All right, I know you're going to be honest with me, anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
If someone told you who are the two, like, there are 2 players in this game who, are not the hugest fan of Big Brother, have a loose understanding of it, and don't really participate in a lot of game theory. If we said there were 2 people,
yes,
who would be those 2 people? And
Josh, I have to think is one of them, right? But
I would think it was Josh and Julie.
Yeah, but I also think Yeah, I think it's Josh and Julie. Rohan seems to be trying to make connections, even if they are superficial.
Yeah.
We didn't get a lot of that, but it seemed like it's not like Rohan's a complete outcast, like we suspected he might be. He
Yeah.
seems to just not be necessarily the most popular either. He seems to be sort of just a guy that's there for them
Yeah.
at the moment. He's not necessarily he's not turning a lot of heads, but he's sort of on the short list. We kind of jumped around here. So
Sorry.
I just want to talk about the state of Team Defender too. Like, is this a team now with Julie gone? So it's is this a team that's going to see success, or are they going to be sort of run out of the house one by one?
They're gonna. I think that they might slip on a banana peel and win. But I don't see this being a situation where they're gonna lose. I think at least two, at the very least two. It's
Yep.
just how it is, right? So you start looking at who is going to be expendable from that group,
Sure.
right? If they lose,
Well,
and
we'll see what happens with this next competition. We saw here the Team Destiny were all in their bedroom, and that they were getting together here. It was but Tina wasn't present for this. Oh, and I'm sorry, we also missed that there was a new alliance that kind of got formed with Tina, Victoria, and Beth in the
yeah,
bathroom. That was actually before like Deshaun and Judson and Latoya got together. So this is where Victoria was kind of coming out without anything on because she wanted to grab her microphone or
say
something.
yes to that.
Yeah, and then
forming of the alliance.
Rohan showed up, and then it became quite the scene.
Kind of creepy.
Yeah, that was a weird moment, but we got diffused. But yeah, so they were kind of like forming some kind of a trio themselves. What do you think of this? Like, we haven't seen a ton from Tina. This was on her only moment tonight.
I think that this is going to be one of the stronger alliances, just because it looks like they genuinely like each other, right? So, uh, and as of right now, especially winning the first competition, I think it looks a lot. It makes more sense for them to hook up. Austin needs to tie her ship to that shore for sure. Um, Victoria has shown that she isn't just this goofball. She does have a little bit of like she can handle her own in a competition, right? Which I think like Tara would respect as well, right? I think there's a mutual level of respect between the three of them, uh, and they like each other's energy. Uh, it just seems like they connected, whereas everything like I- I'm. I'm trying to put my thoughts into words, and I think the primary reason why I think these three have gone together because I think this season's not going to really have a showmance outside of Austin.
Doesn't
I
seem like it. We saw nothing tonight to indicate even the inkling of a showmance or anything like that yet.
I
But with Tina and Beth, both and Victoria, all being members of this Destiny team, and then you have Tara, you have Austin, and then you have Deshaun in there too, right? And they had this meeting tonight. They're like, "Hey, we got the numbers. We can run things." If they win this next challenge, if Destiny goes 2-0, I think it's going to be hugely demoralizing on to Defender to everybody but Jedson, who will feel fine, and because they're just waiting to bring him
yeah.
in. It's going to. I think that I'm really hoping for a Defender win because I think for the best kind of season early. What I would like to see happen here, I think we need to see the pendulum swing the other way for a week, hopefully.
I don't know. I don't know. Um, if I was if I was Destiny, I would have to get out Kiefer. He would have to go. Keep Josh. Get out Kiefer because Kiefer is someone that people can rally behind and people genuinely like.
Seems
And
to, yeah, yeah.
like if Josh is by himself, you can pick up an Austin if you need to. You can start picking up whoever you want to from the remnants. And that I don't think that team's going to be putting up that much of a fight once Kiefer's gone. Right? I think they're going to
Right.
all turn on each other, or Josh is going to be the scapegoat, which the other team's going to let leave him in the game.
Yeah,
obviously.
because why waste an HOH on him, right? It wouldn't be worth it.
Exactly. Like,
And he'll fall into that role. He'll fall into the BB16 Victoria role, if you will,
oh yeah,
potentially. Right?
yes,
the,
definitely.
the other type of goat. I also what did you think of tonight? There was a couple sessions here. We had a couple moments. The first one was it was Jedson asking about their coming out moments. And so there was kind of like Josh went first and he's like, I just went, this is who I'm dating, and that was it.
It's so deep.
Yeah, and there was Josh. Josh was over in a second. Then Julie went talked about coming out as gay, and then later transitioning, and that went on for a few minutes. I think it was the longest I think of the four who spoke in that segment, and was pretty very emotional. And I couldn't help but think
It felt like it was like an exit edit.
yeah, like this is your chance to tell your story. You
Yeah.
better say it now because you're not going to be on the show after tonight.
Mhm.
We thought we were going to be able to edit this in for week 2, but no. And then Braden was almost like people came out to him and told him like we already know, and he was like yeah. And then we have Latoya who came out as bisexual and sort of for the first time. She said outside of some close friends, but also said it was sort of something she wasn't super keen on. But anyway,
she didn't feel like it was something for her to. She's a private person, and
yes,
it's not something that she feels obligated to tell people, which is absolutely understandable.
Yes. Okay. Yes. You said it much more elegantly than I. Yes. So, but I thought this was, this helped, I think, connect us with this cast, and this four of these 14 are LGBTQ at least. So it was. I thought it was very, very a very like whatever this generation, the Gen Z crowd here, and like this young, like the a little bit younger than us, Jaemeel,
Yes.
this cohort. Yeah, it was
the old people in the house.
We're the old men, like we're like Tara's and Tina's now.
But like at the same time, they've been doing a good job of not being moms, right?
Yes.
So far there hasn't been any moms.
From what we can tell. No.
Yeah.
Live feeds come back to live feeds coming tonight, Jaemeel, so, and we're going to see. Hopefully, we don't turn it on and Tara's doing laundry, and Tara's doing something that she shouldn't be.
Look, if I'm Tara and someone starts doing laundry, I'm gonna go and do laundry with them and start talking to them. Right. I'm not gonna do other people's laundry. I'm gonna do my own. Right. Mm-hmm. Those are the two rules. You don't want people seeing you doing laundry. You're gonna sleep in, or you're gonna get up and work out with the guys,
or cooking or cleaning or whatever. Yeah, do focus on you, not on making people like you. I also want to talk about this other session we had with just talk about different cultures. Latoya and Braden both Jamaican, and and then they started talking about what languages they would like to learn. Jedson wants to learn Spanish. Kiefer talked about Haida, the language of his tribe, and he was speaking that it's like there's only 5 people left who are fluent Haida speakers left in the world. It's like its language it's dying out.
Yeah,
and he had this moment where he got to like say a phrase or
I guess a poem, kind of
like a poem of sorts, in that language, which was I'd never heard this language. It's a very a rare language, very intricate with clicks and all kinds of things and going on, and it was a very, very interesting to hear, and I'm glad I did, and so it was. I think Kiefer has this whole. I already love Kiefer. I didn't need to be sold on.
He's extremely endearing.
Yeah, extremely endearing. He's a very. He represents his people very well too.
Honestly, I would, if I was on the opposition, I would want him out, but I also would not want to get my hands dirty because I do not want Canada turning on me and like for getting him out. Right? Because he's probably like the most well-liked individual in the house.
Yeah, I think that they have to be thinking he's a threat, but when to get him out and how, because you get in these seasons where like I remember Donnie and Big Brother 16 US, and he was like, they knew he was this liked guy, and he got to hang around because he was in that Team America twist with Derek, and it served Derek to keep him. But then when they had to get rid of him, it was like they were so. Then Donnie started winning challenges and went on this run, and then the more they weren't able to get him out when they wanted, the more it drove them crazy. Which will same thing will happen here.
Do you honestly think he can go on HOH? It's so much harder to go on a run in Big Brother just because like there's so much control that you'd have to win to maintain.
Yeah, I don't think
Right?
it's high. I don't think it's super likely. I just think that but like if you're trying to think like minimize threat or risk from a strategic standpoint, like a Kiefer, I don't know if Kiefer's somebody I want to take into jury necessarily.
No.
So you don't have to get rid of him this week, especially after he has this captain kind of notoriety, and whether it's going to really come down, has he made enough connections to sort of keep himself safe? How next week plays out will be crucial for Kiefer.
Yeah. So pre-jury, post-team is the right spot because at the same time, you want to avoid give him any momentum to win, fan favorite of the year. Right? You want to keep the bullets in the chamber for like if you perform well enough that you're in the running as opposed to having like a clear favorite like Kiefer.
Yeah, I just think that you can't keep him around past like week 4 probably is what unless I was in a ride and die with like Kiefer. If I was playing and if I was directly aligned with him, and even then how much can I really trust to take that? But they're not talking Kiefer. We saw also Beth and Tina. They had another session where they were like, "No, we should totally keep Josh," because I guess Josh was maybe the name they were throwing at the time before Julie, and get rid of Rohan. Rohan is somebody that
well, they
Tina...
were saying that Rohan was like on everyone's list, and if Josh kept his mouth shut, right, Rohan probably would have been voted out. But I think it kind of galvanized, like we're gonna keep Ro, and we're gonna get rid of Josh because Josh is, we're hearing about what Josh is thinking, but we're not having any type of conversations with Josh, right? So why are we gonna take this person's suggestion when he can't even tell me himself? He has his Patsy, his delivery person, Julie, spreading the news constantly all the time.
True.
Right? So,
yeah, no, like they're not. Neither are great players by any means, but like and Rohan's.
I hoped, Dave. I hoped.
You hoped. You took Julie 5th. By the way, that was your. You were at. That was not your. You took Latoya much earlier, but Julie was quite early as well. Also, okay. I'm sorry. Oh no, I'm getting Victoria. I'm reading Victoria's name.
I do not have Latoya.
No, you don't have. Who has Latoya?
Not me. I have Victoria and Julie.
Oh, okay. I gotta get it. Oh, it's Jen. Jen has Latoya.
Yeah, which is looking like a very strong pick.
Latoya's looking like a strong pick. We'll see if she can. I think she might have too much of a profile too early here. We'll see. But it will depend. There's a lot of big targets too. Okay, then we talked about the blow up with Latoya and Julie, so I'm gonna skip that. And then we had these anonymous questions in the right before the live vote tonight.
Did you like these?
These were fun. These were spicy. I thought some of them were on the. I was Julie and her her what she said about Josh. I thought made her look even worse. I think it did nothing for her image.
I think she was already gone. I think
she was already gone. Oh, it was already done. It just was kind of like it was.
It was attempt to look feisty. I think that everyone told her, Julie, I'm sorry you're gone. And then the next conversation would be, it can't be unanimous. Okay. Right? And they all like, hey, we don't want you looking like like an idiot on your way out. So, if you have to throw some words, it's fine. Like no one seemed upset with what she said. Even Josh didn't seem upset, right? And even her last line, I think it was all part of like this elaborate show. Because when you're the first week boot, because there's no live feeds, you have the ability to kind of craft your own narrative more so
True.
than in other weeks. And with her being gone, and
She can just
it's not
say
the best
they're
of
idiots. They should have gotten rid of Josh. What did she call him? The weakest. He's the
yeah, the
weakest, and
weakest.
he's the worst, or whatever. It was
And,
very generic, but yeah.
and Josh would just like, is Josh going to disagree? Or just kind of shrug his shoulders to that.
Well, Josh said he was the man of few words tonight in his question.
Paranoid.
Well, yeah, they're like, what did you do wrong? I was too paranoid. Or were you wrong to call out the alliance, the all guys alliance, or say something?
Yeah.
And he kind of just shrugged it off and said, yeah, I was too paranoid or whatever. And Arissa was not ready for that. She was like, we had more seconds allotted for you here. It was akin to like when Probst used to get mad at Johnny Fairplay for not giving much at confessionals and tribal council. It was kind of like that moment. I felt like Josh is the Johnny Fairplay maybe of this season.
I think his diary sessions must go on forever, where they're just like, we're asking you questions and we're not getting much, so we're just going to let you ramble and just kind of cut it into.
There was a moment with Josh in the diary room tonight. I wrote it down where he was just like, he had like this long pause. What would he? Do you remember this? Pause. He's like, there's these.
He was like collecting his thoughts.
Yeah, it was just lots of bonding going on. Yeah, it was fun. It was interesting with Josh's diary rooms. I want him to hang around. Not that I wanted to see Julie go. If I had to lose anybody, it'd be Rohan. But Rohan's you gotta give credit. He's doing enough to not be at the bottom.
Rohan just seems like a fourth person boot. Like the opposition, whoever that may be, decides to take a shot at them, and they get rid of Rohan, and then the actual power lines just kind of shrugs their shoulders and like,
yeah, whatever. Oh, you got Rohan. You got one of our numbers.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. I feel like, he's like their scapegoat, or that's who we'll throw under the bus if you want to come out, if we have to give up a number. That's kind of the role.
Like, if you were going to take a shot, like, that's what I didn't understand. They're like, well, it's the pretty boys, right? So we need to get rid of, like, they're not going to win. The moment that you have that thought process, like, you don't go for like the weakest person out of that, right? If you're going to lose a person, cannibalize your top dude, or Latoya,
right? Well,
but they just like, they flat out just like Rohan, like. No. There's no juice. There's no juice to that squeeze.
Rohan's answer to the question was kind of like, I thought he was fine. I thought like the question they gave to Rohan was fine. Jedson's was whatever. Braden, same kind of thing. Like these were all kind of boring. Latoya's was a little bit more confident, maybe, or I don't know.
She looks like she doesn't trifle fools, and if you do not have a strong will, she's gonna just run right over you.
Yeah. I that sounds out. Yeah, that's right. I would agree with that.
Like, those people where like people avoid confronting them because the argument that would ensue is something where one person is going to be extremely dominant in that conversation, and the other person is just going to be scrambling to try to get a word in, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to happen with Latoya. Latoya.
I wouldn't want to get into a fight with Latoya, especially
both verbally and physically, because I'm pretty sure.
Any form, especially the verbal form, but like the physical form too. Like she could definitely take me down and a number of other people.
She understands that nobody in the house could touch her, basically, in a physical confrontation.
Right. She's very sure, and rightfully so. And so it shows. And we'll see how that translates through the game. I hope it's rewarded. I hope that the house respects it, and is not threatened by it. But we'll see.
I think threatened by, in a sense of like rising to the challenge, as opposed to just kind of
villainizing, which is what kind of tends to happen with Latoya players in some reality games. This vote was almost unanimous. Did I hear Victoria vote for Josh? Did that happen?
Yeah.
Right. So there was 2 votes for Josh, right? Obviously Julie voted for Josh, and there was the Victoria vote. But okay, there's something to miss here, and we need to find out. So this vote was in alphabetical order and by first name. In terms of I went Austin, Beth, Braden, so on.
I never
But
paid attention to that. I totally
but
missed that.
Victoria did not, like, her place in this alphabetical run was not she should have at the end, but she wasn't. So what's up? Is her name not Victoria?
No,
Is it?
that's producers.
Does her name come between? Does the real name and her first name come between L and K? I think
Production.
it might.
It's built in the sense that if she was at the very last, her vote would be meaningless. But what her vote was right after the commercial, I believe.
It
right?
was.
And therefore it was 6-2 vote. And then the following vote right after, I think, was Latoya.
Right. So they didn't
and then
want
it
to.
was
They were
7.
trying to prolong how long until it would become
Yeah.
official, and they were like, "Okay, we have to get the 2 Josh votes in here early."
Yeah.
But I think that's something like okay, so then we figured that out. Just talking about now. So I think a lot, like, there's got to be a lot of players, or at least some of these 14, who might know that too, right? Or I guess it wasn't a secret tonight, but in the future, when you're watching these votes and who's and how you're going in order, that the producers might have a deliberate sense to that in terms of which order you're going to get to go up in.
Well, we're going to see how this house goes, because I found very interesting is the conversation earlier on, when Josh's name was being bandied about. I think it was Tara might have mentioned it, but she asked, so to Alex, is the vote going to be unanimous? And the response was, for this week at least, right? Meaning that some people are thinking about, like, not going down the path of I'm just going to vote with the house type of thought process. So we'll see how that goes. It doesn't seem like it seems like there's some people that believe in game theory. There's some game theory people in the house. Latoya, I believe, is one of them.
I think she
I-
might be one of the only ones. Although there's a whole bunch of house guests we know nothing about yet. Like
Sure.
Kyle, was Kyle on the show tonight?
Yeah,
Did
he
we
was
see?
the one who in the conversation of, are we going to vote unanimously?
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. That was his. He did that. He ran his hand through his hair, and he was shown playing pool. That was the 3 things he did in this episode.
That's Kyle's contribution.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle.
Let's see the Kyle highlights for this episode.
We still like you better than the other one. Whatever his name was. Kyle. Ethan. Sorry. Ethan. Kyle replaced Ethan.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It really felt like an afterthought at this point.
Jaemeel, what did you think of Julie's exit from the house? She gave her hugs, and then she stood up on the entrance there and said, "A queen does not play with commoners."
Did she say commoners or peasants?
I think it was both. Maybe I think it was commoners and peasants. I think might be
all
more
all a show. Once again, no live feeds. It was put together to make her look good before she left.
Well, she's a social media like influencer, and this will be directly related to like how her livelihood and thing what she does and her how many followers she has, etc. So I don't know. I guess it was fine.
It seems it was cringy. It seemed staged. It seemed absolutely fake.
Oh, it was totally staged.
Like, but like there's a thing between something being staged and then being like, you might as well say, can we take it again from the top? They could have done that. It seemed that blatant. And then I think that a lot of people are humoring her because they kind of just chuckled when she left, right? It seemed like a very stylized and thought out departure, and it didn't seem genuine. I didn't have the emotions I thought it would have had with her leaving.
Right. I think I was like, you know what, Julie, I don't think you were going to win this game, and it's okay. You might as well go now. Like that's kind of how I felt. I was like, I often feel like this about players where, like, especially after that speech, I was like, I don't think you weren't really here to win this game. You were kind of here to, get some notoriety, be on the TV show, and I think you could have been
being like an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you could have been here a little longer, Julie, but it's fine if you go week one.
Is it lost syndrome? The moment that you reveal your story, next week you're going to be eaten by the smoke monster?
Yes, I think it's like the echo. It's the echo syndrome here, or the smoke monster syndrome. Yeah, because well, especially once they threw it into into this episode. Well, was it Latoya was technically up too, so she kind of had a moment. As did Josh. As did Braden. So all four of them, all on that defender team. Interestingly enough,
you didn't like. I didn't get the finality of their story as much as I did with Julie. Right? Julie
yes.
felt like
Yeah.
she
Right.
told her story or what she intended to like share, and it seemed like her road was over, right? Whereas Kiefer, even though he shared um, the expression of language and how important it means to him, I feel like I like what I know of him, but I still don't know much about him.
Right. Well, it's
Right?
kind of like the Celebrity Big Brother effect. Some of those celebrities would go on the show and they would talk about their charity or whatever they were kind of on the show to sort of profile. And then once they did that, they were like, I don't need to be here anymore. You can vote me out or whatever.
Yeah.
And
my stipend is still coming in. So
my stipend's still coming in, whatever. And all good. Send me home. I had my moment.
Yeah.
And so yeah, Julie had the longest moment, and so yeah, it's not that surprising that she goes here, especially after the edit tonight. You can say they buried her, or how fair it was, but
they buried the dolls. I don't think it's just her. I go back to that, and how long was that segment? Like 45 seconds of just them posing?
Yeah, but it wasn't an alliance. It's just like a friend group who likes to do poses and
what alliances? Just terrible.
Yeah, it's not an alliance. Like the only two alliances we saw tonight were like it's the Tashawn, Latoya, Jedson, and on the other side you got Tina, Beth, and I guess Victoria.
Yeah,
and peripherally other members of that Destiny team under Tina.
Those are the only two that feel real.
Yes. And we'll see if those emerge into different factions, because with Tashawn being in this Destiny team, but he being aligned with two defenders in this case, does that put him in a tough spot among his team? If his team loses, is Tashawn potentially somebody they'll cut because they're worried about him hooking up with Latoya and Jedson?
If he keeps hanging out with them as hard as he is, or he was in this, or what was being presented, he was in this first episode.
I don't think Latoya's going to allow that. I don't think Latoya's going to allow their image, right?
Yes, exactly. That's why I think there's not going to be any showmances, because Latoya is going to be like, nah, we're here to make money. I see you making googly eyes at Austin now that she's kind of on her own. You need to stop that. None of that.
Who's making googly eyes at Austin?
I'm just saying, like, one of the two dudes, because like I think she's the only one that can kind
of. If Latoya can keep Jedson and Tashawn away from the ladies, or she's single. I don't know if she's going to be in a relationship with either of them either. But no, I'm talking about Latoya.
Latoya seems about a business. She's
not here. She's not here for romance.
Yeah.
But if they do, she won't be able to control them. If Tashawn ends up in a romance with Beth or whatever, it's going to be game over for that trio.
But that's something that she'll express to them, I think.
Yes, but it would be the end of it. Like whenever you have these alliances and then one ends up in a showman's, that member of the alliance is no longer in your alliance, really, unless you bring that other member of the showman's in. And even then,
which I don't really see. Like Austin, I keep on saying Austin, but that's the only one that makes sense. I don't really see Victoria going to be in a showman's.
Well, she has a relationship, I think, right? She even shouted that out in the diary room tonight, I think.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Right.
So I don't think she's not on the market. She's not married, but she's
you have the single people are Austin, Rohan. Oh, Rohan. Josh, Braden, Latoya, and then the two strong strapping men.
Do you think that production will push this cast to manufacture some kind of a showman?
No, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that's the type of story they're going to tell. If this was a longer season, yes.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. Like, if none form, I would love if there are no showmances because I think that the game is more interesting without showmances. But I can't remember. I don't think I've ever seen a Big Brother season without one. Um, and usually, that showmans typically will go into jury, at
Yeah.
least. So it's hard, but sometimes they form later. Sometimes a showman's like Tyler and Angela.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the early days of that like what was they called
Yeah.
the six level six
It
alliance.
developed over time.
That developed over time. So it could happen late season
So,
instead of
like, what
early.
happens if Latoya gets eliminated post team? Everything gets shuffled, and then you're down to the final seven, and Austin and Tashawn start making googly eyes at each other, right? And things just develop from there.
Yeah, I hope not. I think the best case scenario is that these trios that we saw tonight are the beginnings of sort of more power alliances, the bases of alliances, and hopefully are going to come in direct conflict with each other, like the Tina squad versus the Latoya squad
Yeah.
potentially. And what would that look like? That could be a lot of fun. Like if they get the right players in place and the right pieces in place. Where do the Joshes and the Rohans and of the world fall in this kind of thing? Will the teams play more of a factor? I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I like. Where does Tara fit into these things? There's a lot
Yeah.
of players here we don't know a lot about yet, and
Which
so
live feeds are going to reveal a lot. We're going to have a lot to talk about come Monday.
yeah, so we'll be back on Monday to talk about who the first HOH is officially. Who wins this, whether it be Destiny or Defender, if that's going to play in. But I imagine we'll get like the HOH and the nominees. Do you think that, or do you think that they'll?
They'll
Yeah,
have to
that's what.
do
Because what's the point of
HOH and
being an
nominees.
HOH? What's the point of being an HOH if you can't put two people on the block,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Versus put all the remaining 4 or 5 defenders.
And then what are you going to do for your Wednesday show? What veto is there?
Yeah, well, you could save one person. There could be one person winning safety, but that's not that interesting.
No.
So it's we'll see. We'll see. Either way, if there's good alliance and good strategy, like the format of the game and the rules are sort of beside the point for me. I want to see two. I want to see game. I want to see people who want to win and not sort of roll over each other and not be like the Big Brother US season we just watched, Jaemeel,
Yeah.
this past year. How that played out.
I want to see some confessionals too.
Confessionals and all kinds of things. And I'm but these first 2 nights, are you feeling good about this season so far?
Look, I've been missing Big Brother for a while, right? And when I say people are like, well, you just had Big Brother US just a while ago. Big Brother US is different than Big Brother Canada, and plus that was more of an all-star season too. It was an all-star season technically.
Is it ever like not just in production, but in tone and like I would say that I would go as far as to say Big Brother Canada is much more socially progressive than Big Brother USA. Although Big Brother USA has definitely had their share of things on their show over the years and varying degrees of success. But like these, I think the Canadian version is very different. I think that the diversity in this cast this year, I think, is something to be very commended. I think I think it's more reflective of at least the Greater Toronto, and the Ontario experience. That no, well, like
I'm saying that online, this is one of the biggest criticisms of this cast. It's like there's not enough people from Alberta. Like there's 0 people.
Tons of people from Alberta.
Well, like I mean in general, like you'll have conversations that anytime there's a Big Brother season, you hear that. Why are there 6 people from Ontario? You mean it's not Big Brother Canada, it's Big Brother Ontario, and it's just like me personally. Maybe because I have the privilege of like being in Ontario or whatever, I don't care where they're from. If none of the people were from Ontario, I wouldn't care. All I want is an interesting cast that
Oh,
does
I
stuff.
wasn't even talking about what part of the country they were from.
Oh,
I was
people
more
do care. The moment that you were started talking about, like, there's a lot of people from Ontario, people are taking what you're saying and saying, well, they're not from other places, and they will be angry about that. They will be sour about it.
I don't think you need to be. I don't think that's necessary.
I
But
don't think they
they're
need to be
entitled.
either.
They're entitled to their objection around it. But I was more speaking to like the different backgrounds and the different like just like we talked about a whole bunch of things. They had a whole bunch of moments tonight where like where Kiefer is from this community and how all these different representations. We have like at least 3 Albertans in this cast, I think.
Yeah.
And quite a few British Columbians.
They're like,
Ontario, I'm
where's the
sorry.
what about PEI? What about New Brunswick?
Well, it doesn't work like that. It's not. This is not the Briar. This is not like there's one team from every province. It's not. It's not like you gotta.
Some
You gotta
people
put.
want it that way, which is a
No,
terrible
no.
idea to me.
It's this terrible idea. Like, yes, you should try to be representative of the country as much as possible. Like having Tashawn here from Montreal, I'm very happy with because like they've had seasons where there's been nobody from Quebec, and I think that that's a little bit unfortunate because I think our French Canadian heritage is something in particular in Canada we try to come together. That's our country was kind of founded on that English and French sort of being equal. And so, even though it's an English TV show, having some representation from the province, I think, just would be nice. But whenever possible, but it's not a mandatory thing. I wouldn't cast somebody from Quebec just for that purpose over like a better cast member. And Ontario is the most populous province of our country. It's got a third of our population is in this one province, and so we're going to have statistically quite a few people in this cast, no matter what. Plus, it's cheaper and more economical for them to go even to auditions. Or this season, maybe an exception because probably most of them were just done online and through video submissions. But yeah, there's advantages to being in Ontario too, from a TV perspective. They're much closer to home. They didn't have to fly them out. It's okay. I think that this cast is good. I think that there's good. This is so far. Like they really dodged a bullet with getting that Ethan out. It seems like because he seems like he was a bad egg. We don't know if Kyle's a good one.
I think they just didn't want to be put in a position where there's any disruptive. There's an energy in this household, and they found the right balance. I thought.
I think so. I hope so.
Especially with the accusations levied.
Yeah. Yes. And then we'll see. We'll see when we turn on live feeds if we feel like they're all kumbaya in there and really loving each other still. But I hope if anything that they're coming together as a cast. That this is a bonding experience and that they also have to kind of try to reinvigorate this franchise because I feel like Big Brother Canada 8. And I feel production feels the same thing. Wasn't going so well before the pandemic kind of shut it all down.
Yeah.
And this is sort of like they keep talking about you can write the sequel. It's a kind of a rewrite. This is kind of Big Brother Canada 8A or whatever. It's the alternate version. And so far so good. Like it would have been great to have somebody like maybe Sheldon, maybe a John Luke in this cast too. But most of those other people I forget.
Yeah.
From last year. So,
or maybe put some time in between, have a couple seasons, and then start sprinkling those individuals back and forth into it.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that they were
Jean-Luc didn't get to play that long,
No, I know he's just one, but I remember him. Yeah. Maybe just because his name was memorable, but I think that there was some potential. But a lot of that cast was crumbling with all the people quitting and the people who
got expelled and then brought back
and expelled, and then people were fighting. It was just kind of like, okay, well, this season's kind of a botch, so can't do much with it. Okay, but I don't want to be negative. I want to talk about the positive things here in Big Brother Canada 9. So Jaemeel and I are going to be back on Monday. We're going to be talking about the first HOH, the nominations. We'll be talking about anything we've learned from the live feeds over this weekend and trying to get some more information in terms of what are the real social dynamics in this house and how is that maybe going to play into things. We'll obviously have a sneak peek ourselves about what's about to happen. And then we'll be also here Wednesday night at 9, and we'll also be here Thursday night to cover the next eviction. So 3 times a week, pretty much I think all at 9 or 10. I got to figure out what time this airs on Monday because we'll be pretty much
8 o'clock, isn't it?
Is it 8 o'clock? Okay, so we're pretty much 9 o'clock all nights because on Wednesday nights we have the original series Star Trek podcast we do over on Live Long and Podcast. So we need to start that one a bit later, even though the show airs earlier. Sorry. Duty calls. Starfleet duty calls. Yes. So, on that note, check out our other channel, Star Trek's Live Long and Podcast, which is our Star Trek channel where we talk about Star Trek all the time. We have Tuesdays Deep Space Nine rewatches with my brother Jeff and the Millards and Jaemeel and I. We're on that one every Tuesday night. We watch the next episode of Deep Space Nine. Star Trek Deep Space Nine from the 90s. We're right on season 3 now, watching every episode in order. Wednesdays, as I mentioned, we do original series, and you can check that out. We watch a random episode with my dad each week, and then we've covered all the other shows. A lot of them at least. We did the new ones: Picard, Lower Decks, Discovery. We have all the Star Trek movies in the back catalog over there, and we also have this whole other show we call Star Trek Radio Theater, where here, let's just bring this in for a second. We do script reads of Star Trek, and we're going to be original series this Saturday night on Live Long and Podcast. All our friends playing different characters. Here you see on the screen, my wife Jane playing Mr. Spock. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're doing the Return of the Archons, which is from their first season. Quite the episode.
Very fun.
A lot of fun.
It isn't just them saying the words; it's them performing.
It's us performing, and sometimes we assign some funny voices. We're not always just doing a Captain Kirk impression, so it's worth checking out. A lot of fun and gets a glimpse into our personality. And we also have Trivial Debates, our third channel, which is we argue about movies, TV, sports, and more once a month. Jaemeel, reigning champion, got the strap. He's he just competed. Jeff, my brother, was hosting, and we had Chris and we had Jessica Chan competing. It was a great day. And really check that all our content on all our channels. Make sure to subscribe and like. We really appreciate all the support and the hits and the views we're getting. And make sure to just chime in and let us know if you're enjoying the season. What was my send off? I can't even remember, but I'm Dave.
Someone's always watching.
Somebody's always watching.